I don't know what Mr. Sharp's going to tell you why he objected. I had already asked the witness the question about the 90 miles per hour. So that question was done. My next question, I asked her to read the location of PJV2. That's it, what was on the spreadsheet. Then that is when Mr. Sharp objected. So that is the objection that's on the floor. At this point, I've asked her to read PJV2.
Well, she is reading off of an ankle monitor report from the ankle monitor company. To the extent that she reads off of it, that's not really my issue. It's when she starts to interpret the data. She doesn't work for that company. I don't know, for instance, the PGV2 or whatever, PJV2, I don't expect to hear her testify or what that means, because she's not the ankle monitor person. The ankle monitor person would have been the person to ask about those things. So I don't get.
What is VJV2?
So the next thing that I was going to show her, which was already admitted, is the picture of PJV2, which is a location that's already in evidence.
But how does she? Okay, so
What you were going to ask her to read?
Yes. So this is the spreadsheet, Your Honor.
Okay.
On here, which I had her read earlier on the spreadsheet, the column has the name, column D has the date and time, column E and F is longitude and latitude, and column G is a location. So before the objection, I believe she was reading, or she had read, at March 14th, 2022 at 10:02 p.m., the location PJV2 plus VR, Atlanta, Georgia. That is what my question entailed. And that was the objection.
And she read that?
She read
PJV2 plus VR, Atlanta, Georgia?
I believe that.
Or is that when the objection came?
That might have been when the objection came.
Okay, and then what?
And I was just going to have her read the date and time of that location. Then I was going to show her what has been admitted already as already admitted as 397 VVF.
That plots that location?
Correct.
that's
By the ankle monitor company? Or by whom?
He showed the ankle monitor company that picture as it correlated to this location here. So we printed out Google images of these locations, PJV2, 464 Windsor, which is what I just showed her previously.
By the latitude and longitude?
Yes.
Somebody plotted latitude and longitude
I don't.
on a map
No, we
to
pulled
get that
up,
location?
No. We pulled up the map. We went into Google and we put PJV2 plus VR. We just Googled it. And we pulled up the location.
So essentially, they want someone who doesn't work for the ankle monitor. And mind you, the ankle monitor company person is already here. They want someone who doesn't work for the ankle monitor company to take something that's on the ankle monitor company's Excel sheet and then compare it to a Google printout that the prosecutors printed out, and
That is already in evidence?
that's
You're
already
right, it's in evidence. It's not. We're not admitting it through her. It's in evidence. The ankle monitor witness introduced it. He introduced it along with the record of the pictures. And so at this point, when Mr. Shard has challenged.
And then what? So you'll then say, and here's this other piece of evidence that is a plot of PJV2 plus VR.
Is that the location at the light that for the surveillance video that we just observed? Because all of this is in this is all in response to Mr. Shard's cross-examination about what occurred at the light.
Can you put that back up again, please? The thing that was just up. And from this, you are going to have her extrapolate that because at 10:02, his ankle monitor showed him at that location, then what? Because you came up here and were saying this is going to be able to show that the timeline is accurate across all the different devices. How is it going to do
so
that?
the challenge that Mr. Shard made is that the 9:59 phone calls, this started with the phone call at 9:59, which is the wiretap phone call. Mr. Shard asked Investigative Viverito, are you able to know if that is the accurate time?
Uh-huh.
Because of that line of cross-examination, we are now showing Investigative Viverito other admitted evidence that shows a correlation to that 59 time. So when you look at this chart, before we get to the 10:02, which is at PJV2, at 9:59, the
Please
ankle...
put that exhibit back up.
This spreadsheet.
Or hand it to me. I'm happy to have a paper copy of it. So now we're talking about 9:59 and not 10:02.
Your Honor, we're showing Mr. Shard started off at 9:59. Then, if you can recall, he went through the entirety of the surveillance video at the FedEx.
Uh-huh.
So that's after 9:59. So what we are showing is other evidence that
He does not dispute that he was at the light
he disputes
at the same time as Mr. Drinks was.
Your Honor, he disputes that Mr. Stillwell is the person who was shooting. He disputes that the call at 9:59 was a call to get on FaceTime to shoot Mr. Drinks. We are saying that that call, that FaceTime call, is a call that where they said we are getting ready to go shoot the ops. That's why they get on FaceTime. So he is challenging all of that, Your Honor. So what we are showing is at 9:59, if you look here on the ankle monitor, he's at 464 Windsor Street. That is the BP gas station. He then a minute
9:59 is accurate.
Here's
And lined up to, I mean, I don't see how you can establish that 9:59, according to the ankle monitor company, is, spot on to the second. 9:59, according to the wiretap.
But we're saying that it's accurate time, Your Honor, because he wants it. He's at 464 Windsor, which is where, if you look at the BP gas station video footage, that is when all the cars begin to pull off from the surveillance video at the BP gas station.
But there is no cross-reference to the wiretap, which is the point. That's my only point, is 9:59 on the wiretap. We don't know when it is on the rest of these devices, and this information does not give us, or other surveillance systems.
Agreed.
And
Do you have him on the video at the BP station talking on the phone and going like this?
We have the wiretap that has him, we believe, the phone plot.
I know you believe it. Do you have evidence to establish it?
Our evidence is circumstantial evidence that he is at the gas station. Do we have direct evidence? No, Your Honor.
Do you have evidence that the 9:59 that you want is the same 9:59 on all of the different things that recorded time in video?
That is why we're showing this, Your Honor, because we're trying to show circumstantially that all these times are
How
together.
are you showing circumstantially that it lines up?
Your Honor, because when we look at the ankle monitor information, he is at the 464 Windsor at 9:59. The call comes in at 9:59. The BP gas station surveillance video has 9:59. So we are showing that all of these things coexist. So the time could not just be off because all of the time are at approximately 9.
That's if he got the call when he was still at the gas station.
Your Honor.
The fact that they all at some point say 9:59 doesn't establish anything if you don't have a video that shows him talking on the phone at 9:59 so that you can go, aha, see? The video lines up with the ankle monitor that says 464 Windsor Street. Otherwise, it's just what you want it to say, but it doesn't actually, even circumstantially, establish that. You can argue it, but you can't have a witness say, yep, this says 9:59, so that means
But we
that's
didn't
when
ask her to say that, Your Honor. We never asked Investigator
But-
Viverito to say that. We asked
I
her
know,
what
but
time
you were telling me that's what you were
No,
leading up to having her say.
No, it's not, Your Honor. What I said I would never have her say, is he exactly on the phone at that time? Because he's in a tinted car, so we don't know. What we know is from the wiretap that at 9:59, there's a phone call. That's what we know.
That at 9:59, according to however the wiretap clock was running.
Correct, Your Honor.
Yes,
And that's
so nobody
what-
disputes that.
And, Your Honor, we've stopped talking about
Ms. Hilton,
9:59.
you came up here and said, I'm asking these questions so that I can establish that the timeline lines up for everything.
Yes, Your Honor, the timeline lines up. So
Okay.
at this point, I can show that all of these different devices are around approximately the same time.
I don't think anybody disputes even that it's approximately the same time.
Mr. Shard does. Okay.
You can have her, it's in evidence. You can have her read something, but you cannot have her say, yeah, that means all of these times lined up.
I
Or that
never was
means
going to have-
9:59 here and 9:59 on the wiretap were the same thing.
We never had her. We were finished with the 9:59, Your Honor. The only thing I had just asked her was about PJV2 when he objected. Well, we were finished with 9:59 about 5 questions ago. So the only thing that Mr. Shard objected to at this time was that she was reading PJV2.
No,
That's
that
what the
she was
objection.
about to interpret.
She was not, and that's the thing. That
Okay,
was,
well, great. She's not going to.
Okay, well,
that wasn't the state's intention.
I
Okay,
don't
then
know
I have
where-
no idea why you think any of this is going to establish that all of the times lined up, but
I'm going to object on relevance grounds at this point because I don't know where we're going, but it seems that they were trying to establish something. They said they're done establishing that, and Investigator Viverito is still interpreting ankle monitor data. So I'm going to object to relevance in 403.
Your Honor, as I stated earlier, Mr. Shard has challenged what occurred at the light.
I know.
So at this point, we're just showing, based on admitted evidence, what occurred at the light, Your Honor. That's all.
Can I ask a question? Why is it improper or not relevant? So if there has been questions and testimony about whether the times for everything sync up, I think has been Mr. Sharp's, his argument the entire time. Well, in the screenshot that was admitted to Detective Hogan and
Okay, I didn't rule that it wasn't relevant. What we discussed up here at the bench was that it's not within the scope of redirect, which is when Ms. Hilton said, oh, yes, it is, because I'm going to be establishing that all of the times line up.
Well, on cross, he disputed that the 959 from wiretap was anywhere close or could be related to the 959 anywhere else.
Was established as being the same 959, and I have heard nothing that, maybe you could tell me how you can establish that.
So at 9:59, when he makes the FaceTime or the call, he is at 464 Windsor Street. Okay, so then you go to your next step.
No, that is, how do we know that he's at 464 Windsor Street?
Says it.
Because some other item of evidence says it, and we don't know that they're all running on the same clock.
That's what we're trying to show you it is. Because at 9:59, if everyone will just wait and we'll get to the big ta-da. So at 9:59 on the wiretap thing, it says 464 Windsor Street. On the ankle monitor, on a separate device, at 9:59, Mr. Jackson is at 464 Windsor Street. That correlates. They're the exact same place at the exact same time. At 10:02, it shows that he's at PJVR2, whatever. That's the intersection of I-20 and the light. And then at 10:02, on the FedEx thing, and it says 10:02:17. So it's the exact same thing. It's to show that all the times line up. All this questioning that the times are not accurate, that the times don't sync up. We're proving that they actually do sync up, which is what he challenged Investigator Viverito about this 9:59, and she's just making it up, and all the evidence is being presented as how she wants it to. And now we have physical evidence from different videos that show they actually all do sync up, that they're all running on the same, time width or band, whatever.
I think you can argue that. I don't think that is established. But if you want to have her say, but Ms. Hilton says you've already left 9:59 anyway. So I'm still at a loss as to where we are. But we'll just get her back in and.
I have a motion before the jury comes out and you bring her back in, because unfortunately it's my job to further tax the patience of the court.
What's that?
Yeah, I have a motion to strike the testimony of Investigator Viverito as well as any evidence that came under her. And the reason I make this motion, Your Honor, is yesterday it came up that she had not been following the case. The court asked me to not pursue that. I'm not.
Come up that she had been following the case. It came up that she knew that somebody had mentioned her on Twitter.
Okay, and your opinion would have been different if she was following the case? Because,
No, if you know that she was following the case, that doesn't exclude her as a witness. You can let the jury know that.
okay, because
You can ask her that.
I can ask her about her following the case?
Sure, and we'll see what she says.
Okay.
And if that's so, then it still doesn't exclude her testimony. It just lets the jury know, well, she may know some of this other stuff from listening to some other witness.
Okay, because what I would like to get into, and we may as well bring it up now before the jury is here, is that she got into an altercation out in the hallway with Kayla Bumpus.
Why is that relevant to the guilt or innocence of
I'm
these
about
men?
to go there, Your Honor.
Okay.
Just let me finish a second. She got into it because she was watching Kayla Bumpus's YouTube feed about this case, and Kayla Bumpus apparently called her.
Okay, you may get into whether she has been tracking this case.
Mm-hmm.
You may not get into whether she got into a dispute with somebody about their posts.
It gets into her bias against these defendants, Your Honor. It goes directly to it.
What are you proposing to ask?
I'm proposing to ask if she told Kayla Bumpus in the hallway that was the last time she was going to call her a hoe. It goes direct.
I'm sorry, the last time who was going to
Kayla, sorry for the pronouns, that Kayla Bumpus was going to call Investigator Viverito.
We need to get into who it was, or just that somebody.
I think we need to get into who it was.
Why?
Because she's married to Mr. Jackson.
Well, was she at the time? Is this for real, y'all?
Yeah.
None of this is relevant. Whatever is happening between Ms. Bumpus, Mr. Jackson, has nothing to do with the guilt or innocence.
Unfortunately, the bias of a witness. Well, fortunately, or I strike that. It is not fortunate or unfortunate, except for the fact that it is dragging this case on even longer. But a witness's bias towards a party may always be shown.
If she is in a dispute,
don't talk at the same time.
Kayla Bumpus is not a party to this incident. Kayla.
Yes, but if she's married to one of the parties, then that might qualify.
If I just maybe heard, I don't know. I'm not the proponent of this evidence. I'm hearing Mr. Weinstein out, but my silence should not be viewed as acquiescence that I believe this should be admitted. I need to hear what Mr. Weinstein's saying because I may have an objection myself.
What I'm saying is that if there is a relationship between Ms. Bumpus and the defendant, then Investigator Viverito's bias against that.
Against being called a bad name?
No. If she is in an altercation with someone that's in a relationship with the defendant, I think, and especially if it is a threat, because
How is that a threat?
That's the last time you're going to call me a hoe? I mean, I've had clients arrested for less.
You may ask.
Thank you, Your Honor.
No, I'm not finished with my sentence. You may ask if she is following the case and has been following the case in any kind of manner. But it's really only relevant if she listened to the testimony of a witness. So you could ask that. But if she's just looking at And I don't even know if she was looking at. Maybe somebody told her. So why don't we get her in here and find all of that out outside the presence of the jury before we go into something that ends up being a bunch of nothing?
Well, that's why I wanted to bring it up when the jury wasn't here, Your Honor.
So can we also bring up, before we go into the side searches, the fact that Ms. Bumpus represented Mr. Copeland, about to open up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think saying who this is before we find out anything, I mean, do we know whether, we don't even know whether she's actually married to him or if she was married to him at the time or if Miss Viverito knows that, or if it was because of any kind of bias against Mr. Stillwell, or just that she doesn't like being called that name.
Well, and no one would, Your Honor, obviously. But if she is in an altercation with someone in a relationship.
What do you mean by altercation?
A verbal altercation.
Okay. I mean,
You know,
a
if there's-
verbal, that's the
if there-
last time you're going to call me that?
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
That's the last time you're going to call me that? That's not exactly an altercation. Is that,
Okay.
is that all you've got?
That's all I have.
Okay, that's it. I think that this is 403 material.
There we go. One for the stick.
Hoisted on my own petard, Your Honor.
Correct. All right, let's get the witness back in and the jury back in.